Guys, if you spent any meaningful amount of time here on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, you'll have seen a ton of so-called gurus giving you the secret formula on how to be rich and how to create wealth in the UK. People do their courses, pay hundreds or thousands of pounds and still end up in the exact same financial position that they started in. But guys, as a person myself who's been in the banking industry for over 15 years and worked at multiple global banks, I am going to give you the real secret formula to building wealth in the UK for just a small fee. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Guys, the formula is already out there and it's not a secret. It is free, guys. And today I'm going to show you what assets you should be targeting and how to get started based on the data of the wealthiest people in the UK to build your wealth to a position where you can live free and independently. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Warren. I am a banker here in London and a property investor across the UK. My goal is to live free and independently from property, so I'm looking for an income of £3,000 per month from property in the next 5 years. If that's what you're on and into too, if you want to live wealthily and independently in the UK, like and subscribe. That's what my content is all about. So guys, today we're looking at the primary sources of wealth here in the UK. Now guys, according to the Office for National Statistics, the average median net wealth for a UK household is £305,000. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems way high to me. Me personally, I grew up on a council estate in Southeast London. I was working class in a single parent household, and the average wealth of these households is closer to the bottom 20%, I'd say, of the UK, which is around about £16,000. Big difference between 16,000 and 302,500. And according to the numbers, guys, what that consists of, that 16,000, is primarily what we call physical wealth. And I'll go on to define what that is, but that's generally speaking goods that you own in your house. Stuff like clothes, your sofa, your car, jewelry, etc, etc. Most people in that bottom 20%, including my own household back then, have zero property wealth, so no properties owned, guys, zero stocks and shares, and between £0 and £500 in savings, guys. So predominantly wealth is based in the stuff that you consume and you buy at that end of the spectrum. Now, why is this info on UK wealth and how to accumulate wealth in the UK so important? Well, guys, we don't get taught this in school. We don't get taught how to build wealth in school. We get taught how to pass exams and then get a job. And I've done other videos on this, but even being middle class nowadays in the UK isn't what it used to be when our grandparents are alive. The middle class is not what it used to be 50, 60 years ago. The middle class are actually struggling in a lot of areas of the UK to pay their rent and have any sort of disposable income at the end of the month, let alone invest in assets and go on to live independently. So we need to learn how to build wealth for ourselves. It's our own responsibility. And according to the Office for National Statistics, primary sources of wealth in the UK are property wealth, private pension wealth, physical wealth, and financial wealth. And I'm going to rank each one of those four primary sources of wealth from the first one, the highest, the biggest source of wealth for most households in the UK, to the bottom one. And we're going to define them as we go along. So let's start at the bottom, guys, with the fourth one. We're talking about financial wealth. Net financial wealth, to be specific, is defined as your bank account, savings account, stocks and shares, money that you have saved at home under your mattress, minus your borrowing. So we're talking about stuff like overdrafts, arrears on household bills, credit cards, loans, that kind of stuff. And what I've done, guys, is that I have separated these into the figures for employed and self-employed. Why have I done that? Because us, especially, guys, as millennials and Gen Zers, we, more than the generations before us, have more entrepreneurs, more people doing side hustles in the gig economy. So I just thought it'd be interesting and helpful to give you the difference between the figures for those who are employed versus those who are self-employed. So net financial wealth is the smallest source of wealth for most households in the UK. We've got 5,900 for the employed, 10,200 for the self-employed. Now, if you wanted to get to the national average, and I'm going to pick the higher out of the two because I'm aspirational, 10,200 £200. How can you get there? What, in my opinion, is a good way to get to that number in a relatively decent amount of time without gambling your money or taking unnecessary risks? Well, let's have a quick look at this example using a compound interest calculator. Now, compound interest is basically interest added on interest, and you tend to see that with savings accounts and stocks and shares. In my opinion, I personally invest in the stock market. I'm a big fan of global index funds. A global index fund is essentially a basket of shares, hundreds, sometimes even thousands of companies across the world, all combined into one fund. You invest, you buy shares in this global index fund, but by buying that share, you're actually buying shares in hundreds or thousands of companies across the world. And the benefit of that is that you get good diversification and often good steady growth. Now, in this example, I'm saying that we could achieve around about 4% per year in a global index fund, which I think is more than achievable. I've been safely clearing that over the years that I've been investing, and I want to give 5 years to get to £10,200. Now, if you invest £155 per month, you can get to £10,200 in 5 years. And the benefit of this is that you have the compound interest doing some of the heavy lifting for you. So you're going to physically invest £9,300 of your money, and then on top of that, you're going to get £959 in compound interest, assuming, of course, that the fund grows at 4% per year, which I think is definitely achievable over a 5-year averaged out period. So guys, £155 per month regularly over 5 years, assuming that you grow at 4%, would get you to the national average for net financial wealth. A quick tip from me, guys. What I saw from the data from the Office for National Statistics is that the richest 20% of people in the UK have less overall debt relative to income, which makes sense. The more debt you have, the more that takes away from your financial assets, so you have less net financial wealth overall. But the richest people in the UK, according to the data, tend to have less overall debt relative to the poorest people in the UK. Another tip that I noticed, guys, is that the richest top 20% of people in the UK invest more of their money in stocks and shares than the poorest. And that makes sense, guys, because of compounding interest and also what you call accumulation shares, which is an option you can select when you invest in the stock market to have the dividends that you earn buy you automatically more shares instead of drawing them out, and that adds to the compounding effect of your net financial wealth. Next up, guys, in number 3 is physical wealth. Now, physical wealth is defined as the household contents. So as we said, your clothes, your furniture, your electronics, your valuables, antiques, artworks, collections if you're into that, and any vehicles that you own. And according to the statistics, those who are employed, 52,900, those who are self-employed, 67,700. Now, I think for most people, when it comes to physical wealth in the UK, their highest value goods are going to be their car, if they own one, their furniture in their house, and their electronics. Now, me personally, I do not invest in physical goods to build my wealth. I invest in other assets. So just a general tip when it comes to physical wealth, try not to buy goods that depreciate on credit with debt, guys. If you can, buy your furniture, buy your computer, buy your clothes with cash that you've earned, as opposed to credit cards, debt, because they're depreciating assets. Cars is a big one as well, guys. I personally lease my cars. I don't buy my cars outright because they depreciate as soon as you drive them off of the forecourt. That's most cars, unless you're buying an antique car. I personally just don't feel buying cars in cash is worth it, but I know that's quite contentious, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. So moving up, in number 2 in the UK, guys, we're talking about private pension wealth. And when we're talking about private pensions, this does not include the state pension. And for those who are employed, £78,000. Those who are self-employed, £35,000. Now, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of workplaces nowadays match your pension contributions to a degree. And that essentially, guys, is free money. When I was employed, I definitely took up that offer and I put as much as I could into my workplace pension because I knew I was getting free money from my employer to match it. When you're self-employed, you don't get that option, guys. So there's a reason why it's a lot less when it comes to employed versus self-employed. And if you want to get to the national average of £78,000, I've been really conservative here, guys. So I've assumed that your employer is not matching your pension payments. Why? Because not every single employer does, okay? So I'm assuming here that you are just putting in your money and it's accruing over time. Most pensions are invested in funds. So we're talking about the stock market as well as things like bonds and property and less risky investments. But I've assumed here an annual growth rate of 3.5%, which I think is reasonable over 30 years. The current retirement age in the UK is 66, I believe. So let's say you're starting at 36. Let's say you started a bit late. You was a bit late to the race, but hey, it's all good. It's never too late to start. Does make it a bit harder, but it's all good. And let's assume you're investing £125 per month. And as I said, I'm assuming a growth rate annually over the 30 years of 3.5%. You can get to that £78,000 mark by retirement age if you start investing at 36 and you do that consistently over 30 years. £125 per month. Even better news for you guys, if you have an employer that's matching your contributions, makes sense to max out your contributions now, because you're going to get the benefit of that when you do retire later on down the line. And guys, another tip for me when it comes to workplace pensions, first of all, enroll in your workplace pension if you are employed and they do offer one, because you can quite easily, it's easy to make the mistake of not enrolling and not signing up for that match contribution from your employer. It's very tempting, and this was me, especially early on in my 20s. I opted not to enroll in the workplace pension because in my mind, I was like, I'm young. I want as much money now, today, and I'll start paying my pension when I'm like 40 or something. I didn't understand the huge benefit of starting now, maxing out your pension and compounding, because as I said, if you start earlier and you start paying into your pension from a young age, you're going to end up ultimately with a lot more in your pot when you retire. If you're self-employed, guys, good idea to take out a private pension. You don't have to do it through your workplace. Me personally, I'm self-employed, so I don't have access to a workplace pension, but I have a private one that I opened online through a provider. So look into that also, guys. And then in number one, when it comes to UK wealth, my favorite asset, you know this by now, you know what the channel's all about. It is property, guys. Property is the number one source of median household wealth in the UK. And what we're talking about, we're talking about net property wealth. We're talking about the gross value of your main residence, if you own that, and any other property that you might own, minus the value of the mortgages. And that's essentially going to give you your net equity in the property that you own. If you're employed, the average across the UK is £90,000. If you're self-employed, interestingly, it's £159,000. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I've got a few theories, but that is quite a difference. It seems to be that most self-employed people put a lot more, or have a lot more of their wealth in the UK in property, as opposed to those who are employed. Let me know why you think this is in the comment section below. I think it might have something to do with the fact that as a self-employed person myself, that self-employed people have, as we just saw, less of their wealth, less money, less capital, less security in a workplace or state pension, and perhaps they trade that off by putting more of their money into property. That's certainly part of my thinking, but I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Now, if you're looking to get to the UK average, and as I said, I'm taking the higher of the two, which was £159,000. I put together an example illustration that you can see on screen. As I said just now, I target houses for £100,000. So let's say year one, day zero, you're buying a house for £100,000. You're going to put down a deposit of 25%, which is going to be £25,000. Your mortgage is going to be the rest. And then another £10,000 for stuff like legals, broker fees, stamp duty, and a few other incidentals. And £35,000 is going to get you a property round about the £100,000 mark. Now, in the UK, over the last 10 years, the UK housing market has grown by 6.7% per year. So I'm assuming that that's going to continue 6.7% per year. And as you can see, from year one to year two, if the property goes up by 6.7%, that's £6,700 added to the value of the property. So it's £106,700. And that equates to your equity after a year. Now, not to get overcomplicated, but when you're looking to draw out that equity from a property, you're usually allowed to take out 75% of that. And that's what this last column here represents. And all I've done, guys, is I've kept growing the property at 6.7 per year from year 1 all the way down to year 20. And of course, this is based on assumptions, guys. I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm just saying that this is the average over the last 10 years. And I'm extending that into the future with just one property. If you're looking to get to the UK median net property wealth of 159,000, you're looking at just over 18 years. And this is with just one property, 19 years. If you had, for example, 2 properties, you could do it in about half the time. Let's say about 12 years. And of course, guys, as I already said, this is based on averages and assuming that the growth will continue at the rate it has over the last 10 years. And you want to be choosing properties in good locations. I myself own multiple properties and I have specific ways of assessing whether I think a property is worth investing in and it's going to build my wealth over the future. If you want to see more on that, check out my dashboard in the description below. I use that to assess all of the properties that I buy. And a top tip, I personally target UK housing in areas that are cheaper, where there's regeneration going on. So up north, for example, in Liverpool, in Manchester. And when I talk about regeneration, I'm talking about them improving their infrastructure. So building new stations, new connection lines, railway lines, tram lines, linking the city itself and linking that city to other cities, investing in huge residential developments and businesses coming in and relocating and building headquarters. All of that stuff is great when it comes to raising the long-term value and demand for property in an area. And if you're struggling to raise that capital, a really good tip, guys, is to partner up. Partner up with somebody you trust. That might be your partner. It might be a business partner that you trust and know. It might be a family member. And I know it can be a bit sticky sometimes. Partner up with family or anyone or friends, whoever it is. So do it wisely, guys. It takes about 35%, I would say, which includes the deposit, stamp duty, legals, all of that kind of stuff, guys. £35,000. That's the sweet spot for me. That's what I target. And then lastly, guys, I want to show you some other interesting points that I saw from this report on UK household wealth and that I think you're going to find interesting. So first of all, it says that median wealth was higher for people whose head of the house was between 55 years old and state pension age, which is 66. So between 55 and 66. And the wealth of this was 25 times higher than those aged 16 to 24. And some of you might say, well, duh, of course, right? Of course, older people have more wealth than those aged 16 to 24. But guys, when we look on especially social media, you see a lot of younger people, because social media by nature is a young person's platform. There's not a lot of 60-year-olds on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, are there? And you get constantly fed with the idea that you want to be young, you want to be hustling, you want to be achieving, and there's a lot of pressure put on us as young people through what we see on social media. But guys, I think the key to building wealth is consistency over time. If you happen to become a millionaire before you're 24, power to you. You are like the top 0.00% of people in the world. You're an ultra high achiever and I respect you for it. But if you're in your late 20s, your early 30s, your early 40s even, guys, don't be hard on yourself. It's not too late. I did not start investing in property until I was 30, guys. And I'm now in a position where I own multiple and I'm speaking it into existence, but I should be in a position to retire in 5 years or so. So take it from me, from direct experience. I'm telling you right now, it's not too late to start investing and there's no rush. The key to this, guys, is consistency, deferred gratification, and discipline. That's really what it comes down to, guys. And of course, money is a big factor, but there's ways around that too. So guys, that is my video on wealth in the UK, how to accumulate it, how to get to the averages and beyond. If you thought this video was useful, like it, guys, subscribe and share it, guys. Check out my links to my dashboard, to Invest Engine in the description section below, and I'll see you guys soon.